Welcome to Conquering Your Clownfish, a podcast dedicated to transforming disabilities into special abilities. I'm your host, Brady Murray. Welcome to our listeners. So excited to have you back for another episode of Conquering Your Clownfish. I am so excited to be able to introduce our special guest today and allow me to please share with you a little bit about his bio. Andrew Lund is coming to us from Florida. Andrew is a dad, caregiver, and early childhood educator. He's also an unstoppable disability advocate and shares his story using his social media platform to share the light and joy of raising a loved one who has a disability. 8 years ago, Andrew and his wife, Christy, welcomed a baby girl named Hadley into their family. Hadley was born with a rare mutation to the FGFR2 gene impacting the sutures of her skull, a condition known as Pfeiffer Syndrome. The Lunds have taken this experience that life has entrusted them and utilized it to inspire countless others. Andrew, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Brady, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
So good. This is going to be a really fun episode and one that I have so many questions and so many things that I'd love to ask you and to learn about, in particular as it relates to this journey with Hadley. I actually want to read something that Andrew had shared in preparation of this meeting. I had asked him if he would be open to sharing what one thing he wants the world to know about Hadley. And I'm going to read what you had shared to kick us off. Andrew had said, "Your worth as a human being is independent of your productivity. Total care individuals can live fulfilling lives. They shouldn't be pitied. It's okay to have a disability." What an inspiring quote and what an inspiring thing. And I'd love for you, if you'd be open, to share a little bit about that, what your feelings are about that.
My daughter is light. I mean, she's non-speaking, but she communicates and emotes, and I have full confidence that she feels love and experiences love. And yeah, she's total care. As a parent and a caregiver, we help her eat. We help with all her functions. We help with positioning and movement. But she's still present, and there's that light in her eyes, and just the way she responds to her loved ones and her dog and her favorite shows and books. Like, she's having an experience life. And it may be different, but that doesn't mean it's any less.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So Hadley's 7 now. And if you could, I'd love to learn a little bit more about the rest of your family. I believe you have 2 older boys. Is that correct?
That is correct. My oldest son, Oliver, is a freshman in high school and just a wonderful, bright child and engaged in band. My middle child is Micah. He's in 6th grade, and he is in orchestra. He's a bass player and just a jovial, friendly guy. And then there's Hadley.
Wonderful. You got a little musical background. Does that come from you, or does that come from Christy?
Christy was a band person. I was a choir guy. I'm still pushing. Micah would be my singer, but I haven't gotten him over to my side just yet. But we'll keep trying.
That's beautiful. So, something that's unique about you, Andrew, is often, let's be very open. You have a tremendous platform on Instagram. You do an amazing job at sharing, and you have an incredible following. And so within the disability community, there are often individuals that are able to openly share and are able to have great success in being able to share that. I'm curious, have you always been active on Instagram and social media, or was this something that as Hadley was introduced into your life, you felt inspired to do?
We weren't always active on Instagram. We started on Facebook, and our motivation there was more to update friends and family. It was to keep connected. Her first 2 years of life were pretty medically involved. That's when the lion's share of the procedures that she's undergone took place. And it was good to have a place to share and to receive feedback and support from our community, our more intimate community. Eventually, though, I decided to pull up Instagram and just play with it a little bit. I think what I do on Instagram is a little bit different because the people there I mostly do not know. And so there, instead of giving specifics and intimacy about my child, it was more like, this is an opportunity to showcase disability and to be authentic, and as a father, share how I'm navigating my medically complex child. And so kind of a different mind frame, but as time has gone on, I've found, I think, meaningful ways to represent and share my experience with my daughter.
Yeah, you truly have. And I just want to commend you for being brave and being courageous and being willing to share that story, because what you're doing is you're inspiring a nation. I mean, you have followers that truly are becoming better human beings as a whole because of that light that you're willing to shine that Hadley has. And so I commend you for doing that. I'm thankful that you do that. And I would also commend you because there's not as many fathers who are willing to be vulnerable when they have a child that has a disability. Oftentimes it's the mothers that are the ones that are primarily sharing. And so I'd be curious about that relationship with Christy and how you guys ended up deciding, or was it just you who kind of fell into it, or tell me more about that.
Well, yeah. So when I started on the platform, I discovered just that, Brady. It's mostly moms sharing, and I think there's a tribe there, and I think it's a beautiful thing, the support they lend each other. But yeah, there's just islands of dads. It's a few and far between. So I really saw that as an opportunity to come out and represent and speak up for the guys, and also demonstrate for men. Sometimes life is going to throw you some really involved situations, and you're going to feel some really hard things that's coupled with joy. And if you're willing to go for it, like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're doing such a great job with that. Would you be open to sharing with us, from your perspective as a dad? You have two older boys, obviously thriving, doing an amazing job. You and Christy felt inspired to welcome another child into your life. And can you share with me about that process of as you entered into the disability community, and what was that like for you as a dad?
When we decided to pursue having another child, there was about a 5-year gap between our next oldest son, Micah. And so that it was just something that we felt a missing piece in our lives. And along the way, as we were getting prenatal scans, there started to be some indication that there might be some abnormalities in skull development of our child. And when you hear, something is wrong or potentially wrong with your child, it's frightening. And the uncertainty of knowing what your child's condition may be, as well as the long-term impacts of that, is unsettling. So really, we have a rule in our family. We're all going to feel, but if one of us is breaking down, the other one needs to soldier through. And so as we had a more definitive diagnosis late in Christy's pregnancy, as she was falling apart, that was my time to step up. And over the years, we just trade off. And, disability it's a challenge. With challenge comes reward. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not. It's very, very hard. But at the same time, my daughter's amazing, and she's enriched my life in a way that I could not have imagined without her.
How has this been for Oliver and for Micah? What's been some of the highs, and also, if you'd be open, what's been some of the lows for them?
They love their sister. They adore her. They interact with her. But I will say, especially with a craniofacial condition, with facial abnormalities, when people meet Hadley, they know that she is different. And gut shot reaction, especially of young people, is what's wrong with her? What's wrong with her face? And so being a sibling in that situation, sometimes being inundated with scrutiny and social pressure, it is difficult. We maintain really open conversations with the boys. I'm kind of like an after-school special at times in terms of sitting them down and having those conversations. They're like, enough with the feelings talk. But we keep that litmus paper out. We keep those lines of communication open. We do a lot of listening. And really, they're all-stars. They're wonderful about it. One other advantage I would say of the craniofacial community is there's some very robust organizations that incorporate the family. So the Children's Craniofacial Association has an annual conference that we've had the opportunity to attend on 2 occasions. And that's just a place where they can interact with peers that are walking a very similar road that they are, and have that comfort and support and build friendships and relationships similar to our family.
So that's a great insight, great answer. And I'm curious about the community. So this is a very rare diagnosis. And so the community, I can't imagine, is a large community. I don't know if you have individuals within your immediate community that you have a relationship with, or do you find that it's pretty spread out?
Really, it is kind of spread out. We've connected with 2 families locally at different points in time that have since moved away. But really, I think one advantage of social media is the means to connect with really niche groups, really rare groups, and have meaningful relationships. So it's pretty awesome. We do have really close friends that are the direct genesis of our daughter's condition. And, lifelong, fail-safe, call them for anything friends that we see at different intervals. They come to visit us. We go to visit them. So it's really expanded and broadened our world, being able to make those connections.
That is one of the special blessings, one of the best parts about being in the disability community is you immediately have a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a family that simply by having that connection, it's like all barriers are taken down and that immediate human connection exists there. It absolutely does. So I saw an Instagram post that you had shared recently, and as I'm getting to know you more and in this conversation, I just think this resonates so well with you had shared. It went something along the lines of, some people are thankful that the glass is half full and others are maybe upset that the glass is half empty. Why don't we be thankful for that glass? And I think that there's some beautiful symbolism that exists within the disability community in particular. I think that that's something that resonates well with you in really looking at, sure, Hadley has a disability, but she is a human being and you should not pity her. You don't have to pity her. She is in its truest form, letting her light shine in its truest form. She is singing the song that she is meant to sing. And I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit more on that, on where those feelings stem from. And I have to imagine, in particular, where with Hadley's condition, that probably does embody or invite individuals to have more of a pity party, I would say, at times when they meet you. And I'd love to hear your response to that.
It's often a response, and maybe less so in person. I think sometimes people remove their filter a little bit more when they're commenting on content online. And there's often, oh, get well soon, or, God heal her.
Yeah.
Well, she's well, and well in the sense that she's stable. Like, this is the way she is made. And in that sense, she's not sick. This is just who she is. And so helping people reframe their expectations or reframe how they look at another person is part of what my overall message often is. And I spend a lot of time, thinking about my daughter, in part because as not only a parent, I'm a caregiver. I'm responsible for her daily well-being in the fullest sense. So it gives me just a lot of time to reflect. But no, there's nothing to get well from. Yeah, she may have more procedures down the line, but she's not sick. She just was made in a particular fashion.
So I have 2 boys that have Down syndrome, and it's less so now, but more so in the beginning when that diagnosis happened and they were welcomed into our family. A common question was, how bad do they have it? And I just kind of laughed in the sense of, well, like all the way, and, others would, maybe in a similar context ask, how severe is it? Or how high functioning? Are they going to be able to do this or that? And this is when Nash was just a little baby. And it's like, I don't know, I don't know. But I do know that people are well-intentioned, and they're just probably coming more so from a place of just an unknown or a lack of experience in that. And then there are probably individuals that maybe do have more of an intent to cause harm, an intent to be mean. And I have to imagine with the platform that you have and as many individuals who engage with you that you probably do see some of that negativity. Would you be open to sharing about that and how you have typically handled that in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually inundated with negativity, and that's okay because I think I'm a wonderful foil to receive that. And I say that as a 42-year-old established man, confident in my life. I can't be bullied. And that's a beautiful thing. To be bullied, there needs to be two things. There needs to be chronic, recurrent nature, and there needs to be a disparity in power. Well, if I don't allow something to perpetuate or continue, I've squashed the number two. And again,
Yeah.
I'm an old man. I've seen it all. I'm comfortable. So to that end, most of the negative interactions on a platform like Instagram, it is well designed enough that I can delete a comment and I can block that user. And that's usually what I do. Probably 95 times out of 100, that's what I do. But there are certain times where I jump on that opportunity to engage. And I'm pretty selective about that. I need to click on a bio. I need to see that I think there's a real person behind him,
Of course.
behind that. And I need to see something that suggests that if I have a meaningful attempt at conversing with this person, that they're going to be human about it.
They'll be reasonable.
And that there's maybe some heart lurking there that I could connect or touch. And I'd say that I reach out and try to have dialogue about, it's about a 50-50 proposition. We either get somewhere healthy and they stop and they reflect and maybe they realize that they're better than what they put out there. And then the other half, they double down and then it's just delete, block, goodbye. It's that simple. And that's not to say I'm not always right. I know I'm not always right. Everyone's welcome to have a different perspective. That's kind of what makes the world a great place. But I think you can tell when someone is of true intentions and maybe is just speaking out of ignorance and when they really do have ill intent in what they're trying to do.
Well, I commend you for your willingness to engage with that. I think that comes with the territory, no question. If you're willing and vulnerable to be able to share your life's journey, your special journey, you're probably going to experience some of that. And I would also say that if there is negativity that's coming in, you know you're doing something right, because without it, there would be no opposition. If you're not doing good, there's not going to be opposition that's going to come in the form of negativity around that. So keep up the good work, and I'd encourage you to keep leaning into it. You're doing a great job with that. I'm going to pull something up here. I went back and forth on being, if we were going to talk about this, but I do want to. And this one, this is a heavy concept, a heavy topic. Preparation for our podcast, we had asked you what your biggest fear is. And if you're okay with that, I'd like to read what you share, because you do seem like a very open and just a heartfelt individual and very sincere. So you wrote, for your biggest fear, Hadley's medical complexity could eventually, so this is your biggest fear, is that Hadley's medical complexity could eventually result in pain. At present, I know she lives comfortably, and I hope to preserve those conditions. And then this is the line: I expect to outlive my child. That's a bitter pill to swallow. I would say that is among the most bitter pills that one could swallow. And I was curious if you'd be open to sharing just your thoughts around that and how you've come to a place of peace with that, or even if you have come to a place of peace with that.
Yeah. So, sometimes I'll get asked, well, what's Hadley's life expectancy? And the reality is I don't know. I don't know, but I know that she has enough medical severity and complexity that one bad day could result in her passing away. And I say this because when she was about 2, she basically had a day where she crashed to the point of her O2 stat being in the teens. and we were able to get her back and stable. And then we rushed her to the hospital, and she ended up having a 40-minute seizure. So I've been on the cusp of seeing that. And so I know that just with the way her brain functions, that one bad day could put us in that position. I also know Pfeiffer adults that have college degrees and are crushing it, and that's awesome. I know that's not Hadley's path. I know, and that's okay. And I can also say that I know other Pfeiffer children that in some ways presented healthier than Hadley, and they passed away through either surgical complication or they just didn't wake up one day. So, I guess I would say I appreciate each day when the sun comes up and that I hold my daughter and share that embrace and those emotions. Again, she doesn't talk, but it was interesting. And back to the pain, I recently was at a conference and they were talking about how there's 7 facial expressions that are universal cross-culturally. That if they're preceded by the same context, that the responses are the same, and 6 are negative and 1 is positive.
Wow.
And the positive is happiness or joy, and the others are like fear and disgust and shock and things of that nature. But when I look at my child, if I look at the percentage of time that she is content and smiling and living things up, it far outweighs any other emotion. And so I just hope to sustain those conditions. And she does learn. She learns at a slow pace, but we're continuing to broaden her world in that respect and to help her be as strong as she can be. But yeah, in the back of my head, do I think that she will outlive me? No, I don't. And so I just hope to enjoy and give her as full of an experience and enrich as an experience for as long as we can.
Yeah, the beautiful thing behind that, Andrew, and something that just really hit home to me as you were speaking, is there is a silver lining there. And that silver lining is you appreciate every single day and you cherish every single moment that you have with your child. And you're not taking for granted anything with your child. And that's something that I think as parents, sometimes we do. And there are times with parents where I think they probably can't wait until the day that little Johnny graduates and moves out or whatever it may be. And that's a different animal altogether. But you're in a very special place. And yes, there's unique challenges, but what a tremendous, amazing silver lining that you have with the amazing attitude that you have for that. So I commend you. That's a great job on that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Brady. I mean, it's eye-opening. And in some sense, yeah, I realized that I took my sons for granted. And so I've had a unique opportunity with them as well. Not to the extent of Hadley, but definitely an appreciation for the gift it is to share and impart life with children.
Yeah, that's right. I'll often say on the podcast that some life entrusts us with experiences. And so some of these experiences we choose. There's a lot of people that visit your city in Orlando choosing to have an experience at one of the local theme parks. That's an experience they choose. But life also entrusts us with experiences that choose us. And this is opportunity for us to take advantage of that stewardship that is entrusted to us. And you're living a life that is truly taking advantage of that stewardship and that experience that's been entrusted with you. One question that I wanted to explore before we let you go, I see Hadley engaging with technology and I see her progressing with technology. Share with us what technologies are out there and what that experience is like for Hadley.
Sure. Throughout the course of the past year or so, Hadley has had the opportunity to start engaging with eye gaze technology. So we have a home unit that we received just a couple months ago called a Tobii Dynavox, and basically can track her eye movement to targets upon a screen. And if she hovers for enough time, it allows her to make a selection. So there's that. Through school, Her speech language pathologist has also recently pursued another device that has a little bit more, even more simplistic input, in that it has a neural node, which is basically, it's like a smartwatch that you wear somewhere on your body. And then if she gestures or makes a movement, it allows her to make selections just as with her eye. So between those two, those are the two avenues that we're pursuing and we're learning. Language is a very involved process. It takes thousands and thousands of iterations for those concepts to be concrete in your mind. But we're starting to give her those opportunities, and we're hopeful that with time, that will give her another gateway or opening to more actively communicate her wants, her needs, and just her personality with us.
That's a miracle. It's a modern miracle there. I love seeing those videos of her interacting. You can just see that personality coming out in her. So thank you again for being willing to share that. But Andrew, it's been a tremendous pleasure to be able to have you on the show. I hope to get to meet you in person someday. Chances are that will happen because Orlando is a destination that my kids are always asking me to take them to. And so I do hope that our paths will cross someday. And thank you for your service. Thank you for your willingness to be such an incredible advocate for our community.
Thank you for having me on. And again, yeah, I think visibility matters. We're choosing to live our life visibly. I know there's value in that. So Brady, thanks for taking the time to talk.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to this episode of Conquering Your Clownfish. If you liked what we discussed on the podcast today and want to continue the conversation, please visit us at conqueringyourclownfish.com. And please don't forget to subscribe.